ever wondered what it's like or what it entails or what to do when it comes to being an importer of kosher products? Well, that's something we're going to explore on this episode of The Jewish Drinking Show, bringing l'chaim to life. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Jewish Drinking Show. I'm your host, Rabbi Drew Kaplan. I'm very excited to welcome first-time guests to the show. We have Ami and Larissa Nahari. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Not the first couple we've had on the show, though. So that I think you're our second couple we've had on the show. Yeah. So they run what's called the River Wine, which I assume was based off of your last name. Is that correct?
That is correct. Most people don't get it. So yeah, nice one.
For those less familiar with Larissa and Ami here. So Ami is the CEO of the River Wine and Larissa is the marketing director. And here are their quick bios. So Ami he brings 15 years of business consulting expertise, focusing on customer satisfaction, organizational structure, service management. He came from an elite Israeli army unit and graduate of the management school at Bar-Ilan University. Ami is committed to building an organization based on values, ethics, professionalism, and modern standards. A resident of New York City since 2000. He's been hired by Fortune 100 companies in order to improve operations and processes. He borrows best practices from high tech and the financial industries to establish state-of-the-art wine distribution operations. So I guess you do this business consulting on the side in addition to River Wine?
No, I stopped once our business started moving. I do this 100%, but a lot of what I did in IT, we bring into our own business.
Wonderful. All right. And Larissa, who I met last year at Kiddush Fest, she imparts creativity, insight, and a keen aesthetic eye to all the River's activities with 14 years of product and brand marketing. Her experience with fast-paced industries such as fashion design, where detail is of the utmost importance. She manages websites, catalog, and event production, along with brand messaging, has built her portfolio of skills to offer a fresh and sophisticated approach to the River Wine. So very exciting. So it's a dynamic duo here. So now let's hear a little bit more about River Wine. So what exactly is it? So importer, distributor, all the above?
Importer, distributor, and producer.
Ooh, okay.
So we import products from around the world, wines from Israel, scotch from Scotland, vodka from Finland. So that's mainly our import. And then we are the U.S. importer for all of those. So we distribute in over 30 states, and then the production part of it is our own brands: Twin Sons, Contessa, Ora de Valerie, Ethan's Reserve, Anoche.
Okay, so I have so many questions about all of these different products. So, but when it comes to kosher distribution, especially with wine, so I think it's pretty well known that Royal they're like the big kosher wine distributors in America. So there's not probably a handful maybe, but they're obviously the big boys and they do a lot of stuff. But what is it like? Let me back up. What was it like to start this whole endeavor up? How did you decide to go into it?
Basically, we both were working in completely different industries and decided that we wanted to start our own business. And we weren't sure exactly what, but we wanted it to tie back to Israel. This way, have an excuse to see his family more, and
it's business expense.
Yeah, exactly. So, we were just looking at different things and different products, and wine was on the list, but we didn't necessarily, say right off the bat, that's what we were going to do. But Ami's father actually brought us to a winery when we were visiting, and they didn't have a U.S. importer, and it kind of just started from there. So it was by chance almost. And then Israel's a small country, so other wineries heard that there was somebody new on the scene and reached out to us.
So how did you decide to get your importer's license? Unless you already had it.
No, we didn't.
So how was that process?
We used somebody else's.
Yeah.
And we paid them, there's a fee that you pay. A lot of it's very common to do that. A lot of small distributors, they start like that. And at one point, it just doesn't make sense and you get your own.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the first 2 years we were using somebody else's.
And how is that? I guess I don't know how I imagine there's a certain barrier to entry, right? So how expensive is it for an importer's license?
That doesn't cost.
Wasn't so much. It was the New York distributor license. That's
so the distributor license is more of a challenge than the import.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
It's more of a challenge, and it actually costs a lot of money. They're importing like the federal one. You just have to apply.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So how has that been breaking into the distributor stuff then? That sounds like that's an interesting challenge.
Well, the main challenge is, well, first of all, as a small distributor, breaking into stores is one thing.
Mm.
At the beginning, it was like, no, we use Royal. Thank you very much. We don't want to start
Mhm.
using. Um, but the main challenge is breaking into the other states, because then you either have a license in other states, or you do what most of distributors do. They use other distributors in other states, but that is extremely hard to do. To get on another distributor's portfolio
Mm.
is extremely challenging when you have a small portfolio. Today, it's the other way around. Today, people reach out to us and
Mm.
they're like, "Oh, we have stores that are looking for your wine. We have stores that are looking for your spirits. Can we be your distributor?" But at the
Wow.
beginning, it was us calling and begging
Mhm.
people, "Hey, can you take our stuff? I know there's one store or two that wants us." It's very different when you have items that are actually popular.
That must be exciting for you, right?
Yeah, the last 3-4 years have been very different than what was before.
You mentioned Ethan. So I haven't had Ethan's, but I remember back in 2022, was that the first year it came onto the market?
So you're probably referring to the Passover,
Yeah, the sorghum
the
whiskey.
sorghum whiskey.
Yeah,
Yeah, so last year, 2022 was the first year of that, but
I
we
was right.
first
Yeah.
came out with a straight bourbon under that brand,
Mm-hmm.
and a honey and maple flavored also, actually.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
That brand is going to be very different than it is 2 years from now. There's going to be three different Pesach whiskeys, three
Mm.
different flavor. Yeah, three different.
Wow.
And we're planning on producing, different. We're going to have different years aging on the bourbon. We want to do double barrel, which means aging in port barrels or in wine barrels. We really
Wow.
want to develop that. I mean, that Ethan started as a gimmick, and it
Mhm.
just blew up. So we're really hoping to do something with it.
Wow. Wow. Well, so okay, so I have so many questions about your spirits. Because you also have this Anoche over here. This Anoche, so it's I imagine you have a Blanco of it, but it's a Reposado tequila. More interestingly, kosher certified for Passover. So before this year, there weren't any kosher for Passover certified Reposados on the market, correct? So 2023 was the first year of kosher certified for Passover Reposado. So there's maybe one or two, aside from yours, maybe one other similar product out there, which is pretty impressive because, well, first of all, for spirits lovers, certainly American folks, we like our straight stuff, but stuff that's experienced time in a barrel is special stuff for us. And I know it's only 1 week, but it's nice to have to elevate our Passover experience these aged products. So I'm curious. First of all, I'm curious to hear the story of your relationship with how all this Ethan stuff got going, and also how did you get this Reposado going?
There is a connection to Nashville.
Uh-huh.
The person that connected us to Nashville also had the connection to the distillery in Mexico,
Hmm.
and that's how we started. So we told them, listen, our company likes to do, but the owners, by the way, happen to be Jewish.
Hmm.
So the discussion with the huge, I mean, I don't know if they were religious, but they have a very big Jewish identity. So
Hmm.
the discussion was of us trying to tell them, listen, we want to do something that I've never done before, and that's aged tequila for Passover. And they loved it. They loved the idea that we're going to be doing something for the first time,
Wow.
and pretty much that's how it happened. Now, it really wasn't simple. We had to bring the OU in. There was a lot of discussions on
Mm-hmm.
what you can use. Of course, the barrels had to be new, and
Mm-hmm.
the enzymes had to be kosher for Passover. And
Hmm.
it's not as simple as it sounds. The process is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Tequila ended up being, the same, but a lot of steps that needed to be taken in to produce this product. By the way, same thing with the sorghum whiskey. There are other sorghum whiskeys out there,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not kosher for Passover.
Right.
To make a sorghum whiskey kosher for Passover, you really have to start the supervision, from harvest How when you take
Wow.
the sorghum, and like, there's a whole thing that then the distillery had to be shut down for a month, and all the chametz stuff had to be kicked out. It's really not a simple thing.
Wow.
So there are, I think, 5 other sorghum whiskeys. This is the only one that is kosher for Passover, for Pesach.
Wow. There's only 5 other sorghum whiskeys. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is pretty niche. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
But still, it's pretty remarkable. You're a trailblazer. It was pretty big news online last year, at least in my circles.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, when you're saying trailblazer, like Larissa and I wake up every day thinking about new ideas. I mean, it's not about how can we make another Cabernet. It's like, what can we bring to the market that is different? That's why we have the only kosher Amarone, the only kosher Passover whiskey, the only aged tequila. We want to do the only very different things, and that's what we do in Italy. We're going to bring new things as well in the next couple of years that are the only ones.
Wow. And you mentioned before we started recording, Reposado is not the end of your aging of tequilas, correct?
Right. So we're hoping that by next year we already have the anejo, but by next Pesach we're going to have the only kosher to Pesach anejo.
That's very exciting. That's probably first time in history.
Yeah.
That's pretty big stuff. Are there other spirits, novel things you're doing in the spirits realm?
I don't know if we're allowed. Well, there are going to be
that you can share.
I can share with you.
I didn't sign an NDA. I'm just
I can share with you that in barrels right now, we have another kosher for Passover whiskey, which I can't really talk about.
We'll stay tuned
because it seems everything that we do, people copy us, which is great flattery.
Right.
But it's in barrels. It takes 5 years to make. So whoever's when you guys are going to see it 2 years from now, it's going to take them 5 years to copy us. And the year later, there's going to be another Pesach whiskey. So we're going to end up having 3 different Pesach whiskey, which, by the way, we're going to try to start marketing them as regular whiskeys. We're going to expand production. We'll be able to lower costs, and so people will be able to enjoy them throughout the year.
That's very exciting. And speaking of sorghum, so one of the wines that Twin Suns offers is I don't remember, it was a red, but it was aged in sorghum, and I never had a wine. First of all, I don't think I've really had anything in sorghum barrels, first of all. But specifically, how did you come up with that? Or was that a thing you came up with, Shimon and Gabe?
Let me be completely honest with you. It is very much not our idea, but it is the only kosher one. So
was it Shimon and Gabe's idea?
No, there's a very common process of aging wine in bourbon barrels.
Oh, okay.
It's very common, especially in California. People love doing it. They did it since the 80s or something. Yeah, so it's been around. So I remember years ago, I went to the OU and I said, "Hey, I want to age wine in bourbon." They're like, "We're not going to let you put the word bourbon and kosher to paste on the same one." I said, "Wait, it's batel b'shishim. We can wash it." I was trying to, and they're like, "It's just not." They said, "Even if we can make it kosher to Pesach, there's no way we can put the word bourbon and kosher to Pesach on the same bottle."
Yeah.
So I gave up. I gave up on that dream until 2 years ago, where the OU Rabbi Rabinowitz, and I were in Nashville, and we were working on the sorghum whiskey, and there were empty barrels. So the distiller, Bruce, said, "What am I going to do with it? You guys want it? You could put plants in it. You can put..." And I said, "Hey," I said, "Rabbi, we can age wine in it." He goes, "Absolutely."
Oh.
And 24 hours later, I called Larissa right away. 24 hours later, a truck came, and a week later, there was wine in those barrels.
That story transports us into our next segment, which is talking about Twin Suns. So the wine that I had that you sent me was a Twin Suns product. We previously on the show had the brothers Weiss. We had both Shimon and Gabriel on to talk about really Shiraz stuff. And then we got on to Twin Suns, which he said was a partnership with you. So how did this partnership come about with the Weiss brothers to make the Twin Suns line?
When the Weisses released, right after they released their first Power of the People that got extremely,
Is that what, 2010, 2011? It's yeah.
2009.
Yeah,
Their
it was
first
Oh,
visit.
2009.
We, really, Ami, called them and, asked if we could be their distributor.
When exactly did you start the River Wine?
2010.
14 years ago, so almost 14 years.
So 2009. So it was about the same time then.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They had just kind of come on the scene, and so did we. I remember actually trying the wines at when the Jewish Week had their yearly events. We really thought they had something special there. So
it was more. I have to tell you. I mean, I think they were talking to different ones, but it's just the way Larissa and I think, and we get along with Shimon and Gabe very well because we're trying new things. The way their label looks, how they don't just do like a million Cabernets like everybody. So we really meshed together. Like we started really working together.
So fast forward, I mean, we're their distributor in the U.S. Once we started, selling their wines, all the customers like, it's expensive, it's hard to get. Can't they do, make a mavushal wine or something more affordable? And, that's just not their vision. That's not what Shira is, and that's not what it's really ever going to be.
Yeah.
So instead, we said, let's, partner on a brand that can offer those things as well. So that's how Twin Suns came about.
And it's a reference to them, right? It's not a Star Wars reference.
It's neither, actually. It's a reference to our twin sons.
You have twins.
Oh, you have twin. Oh, okay. Yeah.
They're in the other room if you want to see them.
Okay, but you do understand my Star Wars reference, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so people have come to you.
When I Googled Twin Suns the first time, the only thing that came up is Star Wars.
All right, good. All right.
But everybody thinks the word twins mean the two brothers.
They're not twins, actually.
Right, they're not twins, right?
Yeah.
Hey there, I wanted to break in. I hope you've been enjoying this episode so far, featuring Ami Larissa Nahari as we discuss importing and distributing wines and spirits. And speaking of spirits, I want to give you a sneak peek into a spirits producer as we are going to discuss on our next episode. Here it is.
Did you know that it would be such a popular product?
No, this was my business partner's idea.
Yeah.
And my business partner enjoyed bourbon cream.
Yeah.
I was skeptical of it at first, but he proved me wrong for sure.
I hope you enjoy that sneak peek into our next episode featuring Josh Quinn of Boone County, which is right here in America. Please note that's not coming out next week. We're not going to be publishing that episode next week. That will be publishing in a couple of weeks. So I hope you come back for that. Now back into this episode featuring Ami and Larissa Nahari.
So I got to tell you, so last week I brought out the three wines you sent me. The reds were good, including the Sorghum barrel one, which was totally new in my life.
Yeah.
The thing that were really, and it was a group of red wine people, and they were good. The white wine blew us away. This Buttery Chardonnay. I don't know what types of responses you've gotten to it, but when you can make a group of red wine lovers enjoy a white wine, that was quite something.
Let me tell you again. This is the Buttery Chardonnay is the very common wine in the non-kosher segment.
Oh, okay.
It's a very and we make the only kosher Buttery Chardonnay.
Oh, it's the only kosher version of it.
It's the only kosher Buttery. So again,
none of us had anything like it before. So.
Yeah. So when we decided to make, we made a Chardonnay before, which was great. But we made a couple of them together with the Weiss. But we're like, I think a Buttery Chardonnay. First of all, it's a really cool name. We're going to be the only one. We're going to be the first ones, and it's really going to. I think our audiences are really going to like it. Do you know what a Buttery Chardonnay is?
Not a clue.
Okay, so I'll tell you very quickly. So all red wines go through a second fermentation. It's actually called malolactic fermentation. It lowers the tannin, the acidity, it smooths out because there's a lot of skin contact. So you need to smooth the wine out, and it happens through a second fermentation. White wines don't go through a second fermentation. Okay, but they took a Chardonnay because a lot of Chardonnays are very tannic and very acidity, and they said let's put it through a second fermentation, and that second fermentation made it buttery,
Wow.
because it was very creamy. It lowered the acidity, so the fruit came out very nicely. And when you put the right oak in it, it gives it that vanilla taste. And that's what you're tasting. So that the oak that we chose plus the second fermentation is what makes this buttery Chardonnay.
It impressed one of the people I shared it with. He's like, okay, I bought a case. He just loved it. It was delicious.
You asked what kind of response. I mean, immediately, like the first vintage, we sold it out through. Now we're on the second vintage.
Oh wow.
It's very popular.
Let me tell you how popular it is. So we make the Cabernet every year, almost every year, and the Chardonnay we make every second or every third year. This Chardonnay we had to make every year because we keep running out.
Good problem to have.
Yeah. So that we didn't. I know. Well, white wine doesn't sell as well. It's everywhere, and I do have to tell you that both the Cab and the Chard are selling in non-kosher. There is Ralph's, Kroger, Target, Publix. I can give you a Fresh Market and Sprouts. I hope I'm not missing anything. All those they sell it in the California section.
Oh, nice.
And that is nothing to do with the buttery Chardonnay. It's got to do with the fact that the quality and the price match because, as you know,
that is nicely priced.
Kosher wines are extremely overpriced, except
the whites.
Twin Sons.
Oh, except for Twin Sons.
This is a sentence I wake up every day to. Everyone knows all kosher wines are overpriced. The only wine that really gives you good value, we believe, is the Twin Sons.
Okay.
We were named one of the innovators of the year by the Jewish Link.
Oh, that's right. And their wine guide, their third annual wine guide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a lot thanks to the whiskey and the wine that is aged in the whiskey barrels and all those amazing Italian wines. The only kosher Gavi, the only kosher Amarone, the only kosher Super Tuscan.
So obviously I don't know anything about those. So but I'm curious, process wise, what was that like to get those going?
Amarone was very difficult.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult wine to make. It takes a really long time and it has to be checked all the time by the consortium, like in Italy. In order to have something called DOCG, you have to follow certain protocol. And the Amarone specifically is very particular.
Can you tell them why Amarone is the only wine in the world that is made in a different technique than all other wines? I mean, I think that's something important to tell.
Instead of crushing immediately after harvest, the grapes are dried out on mats. So it concentrates them and, gives them more flavor. So you have a few months that you're not even crushing yet. And then once it is fermented and put in barrels, it needs to be checked all the time. So it was very hard to make kosher because you'd have to have a supervisor come, much more often than any other wine.
So you need someone to check for both their own certification as well as the kosher certification, correct?
Well, to check for their certification, but you need a supervisor to check because the wine is kosher.
Right.
And it has to be aged for a minimum of 4 years. So it's a very long process.
The other wines that you're bringing to market from Italy, the sort of the only kosher or the first kosher versions of them, were they as intricate as that one?
That one definitely takes the most time and doing.
Yeah. It's definitely the most unique Italian wine. We're next year we're going to have the only kosher Barolo, but there was 2 different Barolos before us. Again, it's the Barolo is considered in Italy. The Barolo name is the king of Italian wines.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an amazing. It's a very. It's a lot like Pinot Noir. It's got a very light color and very thin skin, but the opposite of Pinot Noir, it's got tons of tannins. You're not even supposed to drink a Barolo the first 5 years because it's so tannic and it.
Wow.
Well, I actually read that it used to be that way, but because people just don't want to wait 10 years. In modern Barolo, they cut it into you can drink it after 5 years, which is still a long time.
Wow.
But so again, it's going to be one of the only Barolo right now, the only kosher Barolo out there. Aglianico is called the king of southern Italy. It reminds Barolo as well, but again, we have a kosher Aglianico, and we're planning on producing Barbaresco and Brunello, all those big wines. We have a Super Tuscan, which is a very unique Italian wine, also the only one right now. So we like doing things that are the only ones.
That's okay. There's so many different wines I'm not even familiar with. That sounds exceedingly exciting.
Hey there, I want to break in yet again. Although I asked for support in financial ways because it does cost some money to make the hosting happen and other aspects of Jewish drinking happen. So your financial support is definitely appreciated. And don't forget, you can go to jewishdrinking.com/donate. But also, another way of supporting the show and everything that Jewish Drinking does is also to tell your friends, tell your neighbors. If you like this content, if you like this show, maybe people you know also like it. So feel free to let them know, hey, I have this interesting episode I heard, or a few episodes, or whatever it is, or even a few clips. Feel free to share with your friends. All right, thank you so much. Now back into the show.
You mentioned one of the enzymes. Was that with the tequila? Like it was especially like tedious. Like what was challenging about that?
Finding a kosher-for-Passover one and shipping it, and yeah.
But you found it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's
everything, like even for the Buttery Chardonnay, there's certain, what is it? Is it an enzyme also?
Yeah, it's also a special enzyme
that helps to give it that, that buttery, creamy taste when it goes through the second fermentation, and there are a few different ones on the market, but they're not all kosher for Passover.
Huh.
You're kind of limited to what you can use.
Wow. So in addition to I guess anybody could try to be a trailblazer, but a lot of this sounds like you also have to have a lot of patience too for a lot of these products.
Yeah. I can tell you also the great news is all our wines are going to be available in Israel very soon.
Oh, very exciting.
Again, because they saw those new things that we do in social media. So the first ones that they're taking are Shira and Twin Sons, by the way. So I was telling people, because they said, wow, it's crazy. You have to wait 4 years for a Marone, 5 years. Actually, Barolo is 10 years to drink. But I told them the story is like when we started making the Amarone, Larissa and I looked at each other. We're like, 4 years from now, are we ever going to be alive 4 years from now? Like, it's crazy when you start doing it.
Yeah.
We're already at our third Amarone. So, you know what I mean? So time passes, it sits in a barrel, it gets there, and you're busy all this time, so you're not worried about it.
That's good. This
year, we introduced, it comes in a beautiful blue box. It really is, by the way. Anybody that sees that box goes, it's a really beautiful box. But the Horizon are the flagship wines of Twin Sons. I mean, there's a Napa, which is about $120 a bottle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's made from Oakville cab. Oakville cabs are the most expensive fruit in America. Just so you should know, regular fruit cost anywhere between, $700 a ton to $1,000 a ton. That's regular wine. This thing costs about $10,000 a ton. That's Oakville. Yeah, we have Willamette Valley Pinot Noir of Horizon that costs about $80. Now that Pinot Noir is a very special wine. So we have a Willamette Valley Pinot Noir. So that's another item that is special. The most famous two places in the world for Pinot Noir is Burgundy in France and Oregon, specifically Willamette Valley in Oregon. They're both, fight for the title of the best Pinot Noir. So we have a great winemaker there called Steve Anderson, and he has this amazing technique of elevating a Pinot Noir. So what we took the best grapes from Willamette Valley, from the best vineyards, and what you do is once you ferment the wine, you press the wine. You know what pressing the wine is? You take the juice out of the.
You squeeze them.
You squeeze them. Yeah, you press the grapes, the skins. So the first run, which is called free run, by the way, is the most concentrated one, as you can imagine. Okay, so that first run went into 4 barrels. So those 4 barrels were aged for almost 2 years in new barrels. So that intensity of the Pinot Noir really relaxed a little, and the one that came out is just unbelievable. I mean, people that love Pinot Noir, when they drink this, they just don't believe that it smells and tastes like Pinot Noir, but you add 400% of intensity to it, and that's what you get.
Wow.
So that's what we brought to. That's the other horizon.
Wow.
I guess on that note, also, I guess we didn't mention that we have from that run, from those grapes, we have our reserve Pinot Noir, which is Willamette Valley. There's no other kosher Willamette Valley.
Oh, wow. It's just those 2.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think.
And our rosé, we made rosé out of the Pinot Noir grapes as well.
Wow.
Have you tasted our Pinot Noir rosé?
Not the rosé, but you sent me one of the ones you sent me was a Willamette. It was a Pinot Noir, probably the reserve.
Yeah.
So
that's the only kosher as well.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, that rosé is. We got people calling from everyone, giving us compliments, but that is one of my favorite wines.
Ami Larissa, this has been great. Before we go, is there anything you would like to promote?
I think we promoted ourselves and our wines.
Yeah, I know it's hard to get away from that. Yeah. Okay.
Millions and Sons is, like I said, close to our heart, and the Horizon series is something new and different and special. People should
Actually, you know what? How about this? This is very different. What has been the hardest thing in this entire business venture for you?
There were a lot.
Okay. Top three.
No, I'll tell you. And again, I said this kind of before, but until 3-4 years ago, just the process of selling was not easy. Creating relationships, breaking into stores, trying to put new brands on the shelf, doing tastings and promotion just to get the wine moving. Now a lot of our brands are known, including wines from Israel like Tishbe, Shira. Needless to say, the Twin Sons, people start knowing it. The whiskey, so it's a lot easier now. But at the beginning, that was hard because people are like, we work with other big distributors like Royal. Why do I need to start working with a new one? I got that question a lot. The first couple of years, it was. We worked with a select number of stores. Today that was very hard. The other thing, there's so many more things that we want to do, but we sit down every harvest and we have this much amount of money. So we have to really plan the harvest on how much cash you have, because if we had unlimited amount of cash, we would be making a lot more, many more types of interesting wines that we're interested in. Like Larissa has this dream of making kosher sherry. Like I think it's something because you grew up with I think your dad was drinking sherry. Like I don't know what sherry is. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't, but that is something very expensive to make. So maybe this year we started talking to somebody who's making it. We might be making it this year. So it's so when you're a distributor, you buy wine, you sell it. When you're a producer, you buy grapes. You have to pay for them, and you're going to see 2 years, 3 years from now, the return. So that cycle is not simple.
That's great. That's great. All right. Well, Ami and Larissa, thank you so much. This has been very fascinating, inciting. I can't use my words. Thank you so much, Ami and Larissa. This has been insightful, fascinating, and so much more. And with that, I want to say thank you so much and l'chaim.
L'chaim. Thank you.
Thank you.